Relax. It's not like that jungle hair belongs in a real hospital anyway. Dr. Brian Kessler's voice sliced through the room as the clippers roared to life inches from Naomi Brooks's scalp, the vibration crawling through her skull before the first brutal pass ripped through her hair. Naomi's fingers locked against the counter, her reflection unflinching, while Dr. Grant Mercer pressed down on her shoulder with cold authority. "Hold still," he said, voice smooth with contempt. "We're fixing what you couldn't." Thick curls fell in heavy clumps, scattering across the tile as Kessler tilted his phone, grinning. "Look at that. Clean already." Naomi didn't cry, didn't fight. Her silence was steel, her breathing measured, controlled. Because neither man understood the truth in that moment. They weren't just humiliating a nurse. They were capturing the evidence that would end everything they'd built. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The pre-dawn darkness cloaked St. Catherine Regional Hospital in shadows as Naomi Brooks walked through the sliding glass doors. Her shoes clicked against the polished floor, each step purposeful despite the early hour. The surgical recovery unit sprawled ahead, a maze of rooms and corridors where her new career would begin. Loretta Vance stood waiting at the nurse's station, her gray hair pulled back severely, her white uniform crisp even at 5:45 a.m. "Right on time," she said, giving Naomi a quick nod. "Let's get you oriented before the morning rush." From the corner of her eye, Naomi noticed two doctors watching her arrival. They leaned against the counter, coffee cups in hand, trading whispers and smirks. Dr. Grant Mercer's perfectly pressed lab coat and carefully styled hair screamed authority. Beside him, Dr. Brian Kessler's lanky frame slouched with casual disdain. "First stop, supply rooms," Loretta said, leading the way. "You'll need to memorize where everything is. When a patient crashes, there's no time to hunt around." "Of course," Naomi replied, mentally mapping the layout. She'd studied the unit's floor plan for days, determined to hit the ground running. "Well, well," came a smooth voice behind them. Dr. Mercer had followed, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Our new recovery nurse. Think you can keep up? This isn't like your old community clinic." "I'm confident in my abilities, Dr. Mercer," Naomi answered evenly. "I specialized in post-surgical care during my residency." Dr. Kessler snorted. "Might want to do something about that hair first. That's a lot of volume for a sterile floor." He gestured at her carefully styled natural curls. "We have standards here." "My hair meets all professional and safety requirements," Naomi said, keeping her voice steady despite the heat rising in her chest. "I take sterile procedure very seriously." Loretta's eyes narrowed. "If you gentlemen don't mind, I need to finish orientation before rounds." Throughout the morning, Naomi threw herself into patient care with focused intensity. She checked vitals, changed dressings, and adjusted medication drips with practiced efficiency. Her movements were sure, her documentation meticulous. "Such gentle hands," murmured Mrs. Patterson, an elderly woman recovering from hip surgery. "You've got a real gift, honey. I feel safe with you here." Naomi smiled, adjusting the woman's pillows. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Just let me know if you need anything else." But every small victory seemed to draw unwanted attention. During rounds, Dr. Mercer questioned her choice of anti-nausea medication in front of the entire team. "Are you sure that's the right protocol? Maybe check your manual again." "The dosage is correct per current guidelines," Naomi responded, pulling up the reference on the computer. "Would you like to review it together?" "Just making sure you're thorough," he said with a cold smile. "Can't be too careful with new staff." Dr. Kessler jumped in. "Don't be so sensitive. We're just trying to help you learn the ropes." His laugh echoed down the hallway. "Right, Grant?" Throughout the day, the jabs continued. When Naomi questioned a medication order that seemed unusually high, Dr. Kessler rolled his eyes. "Look who thinks she knows better than the attending." When she efficiently handled a patient's dropping blood pressure, Dr. Mercer appeared to check her work, making a show of reviewing every step she'd taken. Other nurses kept their heads down, avoiding eye contact. The message was clear. This was normal, and no one wanted to get involved. As evening approached, Loretta pulled Naomi into the supply room, speaking in low tones. Listen carefully. Those two have a reputation. They love pushing people around, especially new nurses. They act charming with administration and patients' families. But don't let that fool you. I've noticed, Naomi said quietly. They've driven good people out of here, Loretta continued. They play these games, then claim everyone else is too sensitive or can't take a joke. Watch your back. Naomi nodded, her jaw set. Thank you for telling me. When her shift finally ended, darkness had fallen again outside the hospital windows. Naomi walked to her car, her shoulders tight with tension. The day's interactions played through her mind. The subtle digs, the public corrections, the measuring stares. But underneath the unease was a core of steel. She hadn't worked this hard, earned her degree, and built her skills to be driven away by bullies in white coats. Tomorrow would be another day. She would return, do her job well, and refuse to let them shake her confidence. Her mother hadn't raised her to back down from a challenge. As she drove home through the quiet streets, Naomi's determination grew stronger with each mile. The next morning painted the hospital corridors in harsh fluorescent light as Naomi strode through the unit's double doors. She'd spent hours last night rehearsing professional responses to unprofessional behavior. No matter what Mercer and Kessler threw at her today, she would handle it with grace. That resolution lasted exactly 7 minutes. Look who decided to show up. Dr. Kessler's voice carried across the nurse's station. His scrubs were wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot from an overnight emergency surgery schedule that had run long. Maybe if your hair wasn't so huge, you could move faster through doorways. Naomi ignored him, logging into her computer to check patient assignments. The overnight nurse looked exhausted as she gave report. Fair warning, it's been chaos. 3 emergency surgeries backed everything up. Dr. Mercer appeared behind them, his usual polished appearance slightly frayed around the edges. Brooks, your charting from yesterday was substandard. I had to waste valuable time correcting your notation format. I followed standard protocols, Naomi replied evenly, pulling up the relevant files. Each entry meets requirements. Perhaps at whatever second-rate facility you came from, he sneered. But this is St. Catherine's. We have higher standards. Throughout the morning, their attacks grew bolder. During rounds, Mercer interrupted Naomi's patient updates repeatedly, questioning basic care decisions in front of families. When she explained the rationale for a pain management adjustment, he cut her off mid-sentence. Let me handle the medical decisions, he snapped. Just focus on following orders correctly. Later, while Naomi was helping an elderly patient with physical therapy, Kessler barged in without knocking. Just checking to make sure your wild hair isn't contaminating the sterile dressing, he announced loudly. Wouldn't want any shedding issues? The patient looked confused. But Nurse Brooks has been wonderful. Just a little workplace humor, Kessler said with an ugly laugh. Our new nurse needs to learn to take a joke. Naomi kept her voice steady. Mr. Reynolds, let's continue with your breathing exercises. She turned her back on Kessler, focusing entirely on her patient's needs. By afternoon, the surgical backlog had created genuine chaos. The recovery unit filled with post-op patients requiring complex care. Naomi moved efficiently between rooms, documenting everything meticulously despite the rush. Her careful organization seemed to irritate the doctors even more. Playing secretary instead of doing real work? Mercer demanded when he found her updating charts. I need that bed turned over now. Patient safety requires proper documentation, Naomi replied. I'll have the room ready in 5 minutes. Getting attitude now? Kessler appeared beside Mercer. Maybe if you spent less time on your hair and more time on speed. My work speaks for itself, Naomi said, continuing to type. The patient charts are complete and accurate. Their harassment escalated with each hour. When Naomi questioned a medication dosage that seemed incorrect, Mercer accused her of overstepping. When she efficiently handled a patient's dropping oxygen levels, Kessler claimed she was showing off. The other nurses kept their distance, though Loretta shot her concerned glances whenever possible. The message was clear. This was more than usual workplace friction. The doctors were deliberately targeting her, growing angrier as she refused to break. Near the end of her shift, Naomi was double-checking discharge orders when a unit secretary rushed up. "Dr. Mercer needs you urgently. Unstable post-op patient in the East Wing on-call room." Said to hurry. Naomi grabbed her stethoscope and rushed down the hallway, her mind already running through possible scenarios. Low blood pressure? Breathing problems? The on-call room was around the corner, used by staff for quick rest during long shifts. She pushed open the door and found an empty room. No patient, no emergency, just Mercer and Kessler, blocking her exit. "Time for your initiation, Brooks," Kessler grinned, holding up his phone to film. "Every new nurse goes through it." The door clicked shut behind her with terrible finality. Naomi's heart hammered as she took in the scene. The two men positioned between her and escape, the phone recording her reaction. The absolute certainty that this had been carefully planned. "Don't worry." Mercer's smile was predatory as he moved closer. "It's just a little team-building exercise. You want to be part of the team, don't you?" The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The room felt impossibly small. Naomi realized with crystal clarity that she was trapped with two men who had spent days trying to break her. And no one knew she was here. "This isn't funny," she said firmly, though her mouth had gone dry. "I'm leaving now." "Oh, come on," Kessler laughed, still filming. "Where's your sense of humor? We're just getting started." The door remained shut behind her. There was nowhere to go. Inside the on-call room, Naomi's heart pounded against her ribs as she backed away from the two doctors. The small space felt like a trap closing in around her. "Let me out," she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "This isn't appropriate." "Lighten up, Brooks." Kessler's phone followed her movements, recording her growing distress. "Everyone goes through initiation. Right, Grant?" Mercer's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Absolutely. Consider it a welcome gift from your superiors." Naomi's back hit the wall. The doctors had positioned themselves between her and the door, using their height and bulk to block any escape route. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across their faces, transforming their usual smirks into something predatory. "I said no." Naomi's fingers curled into fists. "Move away from the door now." Kessler reached into his pocket and pulled out a patient grooming kit, the type used for pre-surgical prep. The electric clippers inside made a sharp clicking sound as he removed them. "Just a little trim," he said, waving the clippers. "Get you looking proper and hospital neat. Don't you dare touch me." Naomi's voice rose with fury and fear. "This is assault." "Assault?" Mercer laughed, the sound echoing off the walls. "We're doing you a favor. That unprofessional mess on your head has no place in our unit." Naomi lunged for the gap between them, trying to force her way through. But Mercer moved faster, his hands clamping down on her shoulders from behind. His fingers dug into her scrubs as she struggled. "Hold still," he ordered. "The more you fight, the worse it'll look." "No!" Naomi twisted against his grip. "Let go of me!" The clippers buzzed to life in Kessler's hand. He approached with the phone still recording, his face lit with cruel anticipation. "Time for your makeover." "Stop!" Naomi kicked out, but Mercer's hold was too strong. "I said no." The clippers touched her scalp. Naomi felt the vibration against her skin, then the horrible sensation of the blades shearing through her carefully styled hair. Thick sections fell to the floor around her feet. "Looking better already," Kessler taunted, carving another uneven path. Much more appropriate. Tears of rage burned in Naomi's eyes as more of her hair dropped away. Each pass of the clippers felt like a violation, destroying not just her appearance, but her dignity. The doctor's laughter mixed with the mechanical buzzing, creating a soundtrack of humiliation. "Just accepting the inevitable," Mercer said near her ear, still restraining her. "Consider it a lesson in humility." Naomi drove her elbow backward with all her strength. The sudden movement caught Mercer by surprise, loosening his grip just enough. She wrenched free and shoved past Kessler, who stumbled back against the wall. "You're insane!" he shouted after her as she yanked open the door. Naomi burst into the hallway, her legs shaking. Her hands flew to her head, feeling the damage. Large patches had been shaved down to the skin, leaving her scalp exposed in irregular patterns. What remained of her hair stood out in ragged tufts. Through blurred vision, she saw Loretta coming around the corner. The older nurse took one look at Naomi's devastated appearance, and her expression hardened. "Come with me right now," Loretta said, gripping Naomi's arm. She steered them quickly into her private office and locked the door. "This wasn't horseplay," Loretta stated, her voice tight with controlled anger. She pulled out her phone and began taking photos of Naomi's ruined hair. "This was an assault. We're documenting everything before they try to spin it." Naomi sank into a chair, her whole body trembling. The reality of what had just happened crashed over her in waves. "They held me down," she whispered. "They filmed it." "I know, baby." Loretta's gentleness only made the tears flow faster. "But we're going to handle this right. No covering it up this time." She pulled out incident forms and began writing rapidly, her pen scratching across the paper. "Tell me exactly what happened. Every detail. Times, words used, who did what. We'll file the official report before they can create their version." Hours later, Naomi sat in a hard chair in the administration wing. Her scalp still tingled where the clippers had scraped across it. The statement she'd just given felt inadequate to capture the full weight of the violation. "They trapped me," she repeated numbly to the HR director. "They held me down and destroyed my hair while laughing. How is that a prank?" The fluorescent lights in the office seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as her pounding head. Her fingers kept reaching up to touch the ruined remains of her hair, each contact a fresh reminder of the assault. The doctor's laughter still echoed in her ears, mixed with the terrible sound of the clippers. Loretta sat beside her, a solid presence radiating quiet fury. They had documented everything. The uneven patches of exposed scalp, the hair scattered across the on-call room floor, the red marks on Naomi's shoulders where Mercer had gripped her. Now they waited to see if the administration would treat this violation with the seriousness it deserved. The hospital's security office felt cold and sterile at midnight. Naomi sat with her arms wrapped around herself while Loretta stood beside her chair, one hand resting protectively on her shoulder. Through the window, they could see administrators huddled around a monitor, reviewing security footage. "I want to file a police report," Naomi said, her voice hoarse from repeating her statement multiple times. "This wasn't a joke or a prank. It was assault." "You have every right to call the police," Loretta agreed firmly. "Don't let anyone tell you different." The security director, Mr. Patterson, turned from the monitor with a grave expression. "Ms. Brooks, we've found some relevant footage. Would you be willing to view it?" Naomi nodded, though her stomach clenched. On the screen, she watched herself walking down the hallway. Then Mercer appearing behind her, his hand pressing against her back as he forced her toward the on-call room. The timestamp matched her statement exactly. "There's more," Patterson said quietly. He gestured to a young orderly hovering nervously by the door. "Mr. Mays, please tell Ms. Brooks what you witnessed." Terrell Mays stepped forward, twisting his hands together. "I was mopping near that room when I heard noises, like a struggle and laughing. The door opened for a moment, and I recorded some of it on my phone. I'm sorry I didn't step in, but I thought maybe having proof would help." He pulled out his phone with trembling fingers and played a short video. The sound of buzzing clippers filled the room, along with Kessler's voice saying clearly, "Hold still! This is for your own good." The footage showed a glimpse of Naomi breaking free, her hair already partially destroyed. "This changes things considerably," the hospital's night administrator said. She'd been watching silently until now. "Dr. Mercer and Dr. Kessler are still in the building. We should speak with them immediately." Within minutes, both doctors were brought to a conference room down the hall. Through the glass walls, Naomi could see their faces change as they learned about the videos. Mercer's usual confidence cracked. Kessler started talking rapidly, his hands moving in defensive gestures. "It was mutual joking around," Kessler's voice carried through the door. "Ask anyone. We're known for welcome pranks." She was laughing too. "The footage suggests otherwise," the administrator replied coldly. "Both of you are suspended, effective immediately pending a full investigation." Mercer stood up, his chair scraping back. "This is ridiculous. We're senior staff. You can't possibly—" "We can, and we are," the administrator cut him off. "Security will escort you out. Do not return to the premises until notified." Naomi watched them being led away, their white coats like flags of surrender in the dim hallway. The sight should have felt triumphant, but she was too drained to feel anything but hollow. "Let's get you home," Loretta said gently. "You've given enough statements for one night." The drive home passed in a blur. Naomi had texted her brother earlier, and Elijah was waiting on his porch when Loretta dropped her off. His face tightened with anger when he saw her ruined hair under the porch light, but he kept his voice steady. "Come on, sis," he said, leading her inside. "Let's fix this." In his bathroom, Elijah carefully draped a cape around her shoulders, the same one he used for clients at his barber shop. He laid out his professional clippers and guards with precise movements. "They turned something beautiful into a weapon," he said, examining the uneven patches they'd left. "But we're taking it back. You tell me how you want this done." Naomi stared at her reflection, at the destroyed remains of the style she'd worn proudly just that morning. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Just make it clean," she whispered. "Make it even." Elijah worked with gentle expertise, carefully evening out the brutal hack job into a deliberate style. As her remaining hair fell away, Naomi felt something shift inside her, grief mixing with determination. "Remember when Mama used to do your hair?" Elijah asked softly, his clippers moving in smooth strokes. "She'd say your crown was your strength." "She'd be so angry right now," Naomi said, wiping her eyes. "She'd be proud of you for standing up to them," Elijah corrected. "And she'd say what I'm saying. They hurt you, but they didn't break you. That's different." When he finished, Naomi's head was shaved clean and even. The style was stark, but somehow dignified, chosen rather than forced upon her. She ran her palm over the smooth surface, feeling the shape of her skull beneath. Dawn light was just beginning to creep through the windows. Naomi stood before the bathroom mirror, turning her head to examine her reflection from different angles. Her eyes were red from crying, but clear now, her jaw set with determination. The woman in the mirror looked stripped down, but undefeated. She would return to face them. She would not let them make her disappear. Naomi adjusted her emerald green head wrap in the rear-view mirror before walking into St. Catherine's main entrance. She'd chosen it carefully, dignified, professional, and impossible to ignore. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the parking lot as staff shuffled in for the day shift. Several nurses at the front desk fell silent when she passed. Their eyes followed her, but no one spoke. Naomi kept her chin high, her steps measured and deliberate. She had nothing to be ashamed of. The elevator dinged open on the surgical floor. Before Naomi could even reach the nurses' station, a young administrator intercepted her with a clipboard. "Ms. Brooks, HR needs to see you right away. Monica Hale is waiting in conference room B." Naomi's stomach tightened, but she nodded calmly. She'd expected this, just not quite so quickly. Monica Hale sat behind a polished table, elegant in a dove-gray suit. Two thick folders lay before her, along with what looked like legal documents. Her smile was practiced and sympathetic. "Naomi, please come in. How are you holding up?" "I'm here to work," Naomi said, remaining standing. "And to ensure proper documentation of what happened." "Yes, about that." Monica gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. We've prepared a comprehensive wellness package to help you through this difficult time." Naomi sat stiffly, her hands folded in her lap. Monica slid several papers across the table. "The hospital takes staff well-being very seriously. Monica continued. We're offering paid administrative leave, complete coverage for counseling services, and, she paused delicately, a confidential resolution payment to help you move forward. You mean hush money? Monica's smile tightened. We prefer to think of it as support during a challenging transition. Of course, accepting would require standard non-disclosure and non-litigation agreements. You want me to stay quiet about being assaulted? That term feels rather inflammatory, Monica said. We're trying to resolve an unfortunate interpersonal incident with sensitivity to all parties. Naomi stood up so quickly her chair scraped back. My answer is no. Absolutely not. Please consider carefully before refusing. Monica's voice hardened slightly. This is a generous package. The alternative could be messier. Was that a threat? Simply an observation about workplace dynamics. These situations can become complicated. Naomi walked out without another word, her heart pounding. She found Loretta in the break room, reading reports with thin, pressed lips. They tried to buy me off, Naomi said quietly. Loretta didn't look surprised. People are already talking, saying it was just rough joking that got out of hand, that you're being dramatic. How can they say that? There's video evidence. Evidence can be... Loretta trailed off as another nurse entered, then quickly left. Evidence can be interpreted different ways by people with power. By afternoon, Naomi saw exactly what Loretta meant. A revised incident report appeared in her file. The language had shifted dramatically. Forcible restraint became inappropriate physical contact. Assault was now unprofessional behavior. Even the security footage was described as inconclusive regarding intent. She overheard whispers in the hallway. If she can't take a joke, playing the victim. Career killer. Terrell found her by the supply closet, his face drawn with worry. They put me on probation, he whispered. Said I violated HIPAA by recording inside the unit. They're threatening my job. Before Naomi could respond, an administrator appeared with another envelope. Inside was a formal notice. Dr. Mercer and Dr. Kessler would return to regular duties effective immediately. The investigation had found insufficient evidence of malicious intent. A separate note suggested Naomi could request transfer to another unit if continued proximity creates discomfort. She crumpled the papers in her fist. Without changing out of her scrubs, she drove straight to the law offices of Whitman and Associates. The receptionist tried to explain they were closing soon, but Naomi refused to leave until someone heard her story. Asha Whitman emerged from her office, elegant and imposing in a charcoal suit. Her sharp eyes took in Naomi's head wrap, uniform, and trembling hands. "Come in," she said simply. "Tell me everything." For the next 2 hours, Naomi laid out every detail while Asha took precise notes. She described the escalating harassment, the assault, the video evidence, the pressure to stay quiet, the altered reports, and the doctor's reinstatement. They expect me to either work under them or quit, Naomi finished. Like I'm the problem. Asha set down her pen and studied Naomi carefully. You documented everything? Yes. Times, dates, exact quotes. I have copies of the original report and the revised version. Loretta witnessed the aftermath and made her own notes. Smart, Asha nodded. And you refused their settlement offer? I won't let them bury this. Good. Asha's smile was razor-sharp. Because we're going to make them wish they'd never touched you. She pulled out fresh legal papers and began filling them out with swift precision. $7 million, she said. That's our opening demand. Compensatory damages, punitive damages, and a very public reminder that actions have consequences. Naomi watched as Asha's pen flew across the documents. Will it be enough? To get their attention? Absolutely. To make them face what they did? That's what we're going to fight for. By the time Asha finished preparing the initial filing, it was nearly midnight. The law office was dark, except for their conference room. Naomi's scrubs were wrinkled, and her head ached from tension, but her spine was steel straight as she signed the last paper. The phone's buzzing jolted Naomi awake. 28 missed calls lit up her screen, along with dozens of text messages. Her heart raced as she opened the first news alert. $7 million lawsuit filed against St. Catherine Hospital. Doctors accused of forcibly shaving black nurse. Elijah's call came through before she could process more. You seeing this? It's everywhere. Channel 4 has a van outside the hospital. Already? Naomi's throat felt dry. She clicked through local news sites, each headline more sensational than the last. Don't go on social media, Elijah warned. People are running their mouths without knowing anything. But Naomi was already scrolling, her stomach dropping at comment after comment. Sounds like someone can't take a joke. $7 million for a haircut? Please. These nurses trying to get rich quick? Her phone buzzed again. Asha Whitman. They're moving faster than expected, Asha said without preamble. Hospital PR is already pushing their narrative. I need you to document everything starting now. Every conversation, every schedule change, every sideways look. Time, date, witnesses. Can you do that? Yes. Naomi grabbed a notebook. Should I still go in today? Absolutely. Don't give them any ammunition about reliability, but be careful. They'll try to provoke reactions they can use against you. Naomi dressed with extra care, choosing a deep purple head wrap and her crispest scrubs. 3 news vans lined the hospital entrance when she arrived. Reporters called her name, but she walked past without comment, just as Asha had instructed. Inside, the usual morning bustle felt muffled, artificial. Conversation stopped when she entered rooms. People found reasons to walk other routes. Even staff who'd been friendly yesterday suddenly had urgent tasks elsewhere. At the nurse's station, her assignment sheet showed changes. Instead of her usual recovery floor rotation, she was moved to the highest need wing with the most demanding patients. Her lunch break had been shifted to off-peak hours when backup coverage was thinnest. They're trying to wear you down, Loretta murmured, sliding past with supply cart. Don't let them see it working. Naomi nodded slightly, noting the schedule changes in her phone. She worked methodically through the morning, handling each task with careful precision while logging every irregularity. No one offered the usual help with patient transfers. Equipment she needed mysteriously disappeared. Simple requests took multiple follow-ups. During her isolated lunch break, she found more social media posts, now with uglier undertones. Another race card player. Probably couldn't handle the job anyway. These people always claiming victim status. She forced herself to screenshot everything, then put the phone away. Elijah was right. Reading comments only drained energy she needed for surviving the shift. Mercer and Kessler were conspicuously absent, but their influence hung over everything. Nurses who'd previously shared friendly small talk now treated her with robotic politeness. An administrator happened to notice minor charting delays from last week. A patient who'd specifically requested Naomi was reassigned without explanation. Remember, Loretta whispered during a brief overlap in the supply room, they want you to snap. Stay frosty. By mid-afternoon, Naomi's phone buzzed with another call from Asha. Their legal team is already building a counter-narrative, Asha reported. They're pulling your entire work history, talking to former colleagues, looking for anything they can spin. They'll try to paint you as unstable, attention-seeking, chronically dissatisfied, standard character assassination playbook. So the lawsuit didn't scare them at all, Naomi said. No, it made them dangerous. Document everything, especially any pattern of different treatment. We need to prove retaliation. The rest of the shift felt endless. Every interaction seemed loaded with hidden threats. Naomi moved carefully, spoke softly, and kept her phone's voice recorder running in her pocket. She noted which staff avoided her, which ones watched too closely, which ones suddenly needed everything in writing. By evening, she was exhausted but clear-headed. This wasn't just about the assault anymore. The institution was revealing its true nature in how it responded. Each petty punishment and cold shoulder proved the culture that had allowed the original attack. She drove to Elijah's house, needing the comfort of family. He had dinner waiting, her favorite comfort food from childhood. "You look beat," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "I need to write everything down while it's fresh." Naomi pulled out a leather-bound notebook, their mother's old diary, empty until now. "Every single thing they do to punish me for speaking up goes in here." Elijah set a mug of tea beside her. "You sure you want to keep fighting? Nobody would blame you for walking away." Naomi opened the notebook to its first clean page. "They're counting on me giving up. That's exactly why I can't." She began writing, her pen moving steadily across the paper. Day 1 after filing, 7:15 a.m., arrival at St. Catherine Hospital. Security guard Thompson avoided normal greeting. 7:30 a.m., schedule changed without notice. The pre-dawn light hadn't yet touched the horizon when Naomi settled at her kitchen table, steam rising from her coffee cup. Her mother's leather notebook lay open before her, pages now filled with yesterday's meticulous notes. Each entry documented another small cruelty, another calculated slight. She reviewed her neat handwriting. 8:15 a.m., usual backup nurse reassigned without notice. 9:30 a.m., supply cabinet code changed. No one informed me. 10:45 a.m., patient request for me denied. The pattern was clear even in just one day's observations. Death by 1,000 cuts. Naomi arrived at St. Catherine early, parking far from the news vans that still lingered. She'd barely clocked in when Monica Hale intercepted her, holding a yellow write-up slip. "Just following up on some documentation concerns," Monica said, her professional smile never reaching her eyes. "We noticed a 15-minute delay in your post-operative notes from last Thursday." Naomi kept her voice steady. "That was during the emergency influx. Every nurse had delayed charting that night." "Oh? Well, this one was flagged specifically." Monica's pen tapped the paper. "We'll need your signature acknowledging the violation." Through the glass walls of the nurses' station, Naomi could see other staff watching. She signed without argument, noting time and details in her phone the moment Monica walked away. The morning brought a cascade of small retaliations. Her regular lunch break disappeared from the schedule, replaced with an awkward 2:30 p.m. slot when the cafeteria would be nearly closed. Her usual patients were redistributed, leaving her with the highest need cases that required constant monitoring. "Random adjustments for workflow efficiency," the unit secretary said blandly when Naomi inquired. By midday, Dr. Mercer returned to the floor like nothing had happened. He strode past in his white coat, chatting with administrators who laughed at his jokes. The sight of him moving freely through the space he'd violated made Naomi's hands shake, but she focused on her tasks, documenting everything. Dr. Kessler arrived an hour later, even more boisterous than usual. His voice carried deliberately across the unit. "Man, some people just can't take a little workplace fun anymore, right?" Several nurses tittered nervously. Others found reasons to disappear into patient rooms. Naomi felt their eyes on her, but kept working, her phone recording in her pocket. During her late lunch break, Loretta found her in the nearly empty cafeteria. "You're not the first," Loretta said quietly, sliding into the seat across from her. "Remember Sarah Chen from Ortho? Transferred suddenly last year? Mercer made her life hell after she reported him for verbal abuse. And that new grad Jessica, Kessler drove her out in 3 months with his jokes. The pattern goes back years." "How many others?" Naomi asked. "At least 5 I know of personally. All women, mostly minorities. They'd complain, get isolated, then either transfer or quit. Hospital would rather lose good nurses than discipline profitable doctors." Naomi noted the names in her phone. Did anyone ever fight back? One tried. Marie Torres, surgical resident, filed a formal complaint about Mercer's behavior 2 years ago. Within a month, she had negative performance reviews, lost procedure privileges, eventually left medicine entirely. After her shift, Naomi met Asha at a coffee shop 10 miles from the hospital. Marie Torres sat waiting for them, hands wrapped around an untouched cup of tea. "I should have pushed harder," Marie said, her voice tight. But I had student loans, my parents' medical bills. I couldn't risk losing everything. They make sure you know the cost of speaking up. She described Mercer's escalating cruelty, the public humiliation, the sabotaged cases, the whisper campaign that painted her as unstable. Her hands trembled as she recalled the day she finally quit. The system protects them, Marie said. The hospital needs their surgeries, their referrals, their reputation. We're replaceable. They're not. Asha recorded everything while Naomi took notes. The pattern emerged clearly. Identify targets. Isolate them. Make examples of them. Replace them. Repeat. They count on fear and financial pressure to maintain control, Asha observed. Each silent departure makes the next victim feel more alone. At home that night, Naomi transferred Marie's account into her case file, fingers flying across the keyboard as she captured every detail. The familiar anger rose as she typed, not just at Mercer and Kessler now, but at the institution that empowered them, the administrators who covered for them, the system that kept churning out new victims. When she finally lay down, sleep wouldn't come. The day's events played on repeat. Monica's practiced smile, Mercer's confident stride, Kessler's loud laughter, Marie's shaking hands. All the pieces of a machine designed to grind down resistance. Naomi stared at her ceiling, exhausted but alert, counting the hours until her next shift would begin. The morning sun barely warmed the windows of Eddie's diner as Naomi slid into a corner booth. Her eyes felt gritty from lack of sleep, and she wrapped her hands around a steaming coffee cup while waiting for Asha. The early morning regulars paid no attention to her, focused on their eggs and newspapers. Asha arrived precisely on time, her leather briefcase bulging with documents. She ordered coffee before spreading manila folders across the worn tabletop. I spent half the night going through archived complaints, Asha said, her voice low despite the diner's clatter. The pattern goes deeper than we thought. She opened the first folder, revealing a formal complaint from 3 years ago. Dr. Ana Rodriguez, surgical resident. Mercer systematically undermined her during procedures, called her incompetent in front of patients, suggested she got into medical school through quotas. Naomi scanned the documents, her jaw tightening. What happened to her? Transferred to a hospital in Arizona after her evaluations mysteriously tanked. She's working urgent care now, gave up surgery entirely. Asha pulled out another file. Then there's James Washington, maintenance staff. Kessler humiliated him in the cafeteria, made jokes about him being too slow to clean properly. When Washington filed a complaint, he was suddenly reassigned to night shift, then demoted for performance issues. The waitress brought their breakfast, but Naomi had lost her appetite. File after file revealed similar stories. Minorities targeted, complaints filed, careers damaged, people forced out. Each case seemed minor in isolation. A transfer request here, a resignation there. Together, they painted an ugly picture. They're careful, Asha noted, buttering her toast. Never quite enough evidence in any single case to prove discrimination. But the pattern is clear if you know where to look. How did they get away with this for so long? Money, prestige. Mercer brings in millions in surgical revenue. Kessler's connected to half the anesthesiologists in the state. The hospital protects its assets. Naomi pushed her eggs around her plate. So I'm just their latest target. No, Asha said firmly. You're the one who's going to stop them. An hour later, Naomi walked into St. Catherine's, the weight of those files heavy in her mind. The morning huddle scattered as she approached the nurse's station. Conversations died. People found reasons to be elsewhere. Morning, everyone, she said clearly, refusing to act ashamed. A few nurses mumbled replies without meeting her eyes. They treated her like she was radioactive now, someone who had violated the unspoken rule against naming the hospital's sins. During rounds, she focused on her patients, finding comfort in the familiar routines of care. In room 412, Mrs. Peterson grabbed her hand while Naomi checked her IV. You look tired, honey, the elderly woman said. "Are you getting enough rest?" The simple kindness almost broke through Naomi's professional mask. "I'm fine, Mrs. Peterson. Just busy taking good care of folks like you." "That's why I trust you," Mrs. Peterson smiled. "You really see us. Not everyone does." The comment carried Naomi through the rest of her shift, reminding her why she'd chosen nursing. Not for the hospital's approval, but for moments of genuine human connection. That evening, she joined Elijah at New Hope Baptist's weekly prayer circle. The small group met in the church basement, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Sister Martha hugged her tight. "We're all praying for you, child." But as the group settled into metal folding chairs, the divided responses became clear. Some, like Deacon Williams, voiced fierce support. "Sometimes the Lord calls us to stand up against evil," he declared. "Silence helps the oppressor, not the oppressed." Others were less encouraging. Sister Joyce suggested that pursuing worldly justice through lawsuits might hurt Naomi's spirit. Brother Marcus wondered if accepting a settlement would bring faster healing than a public fight. "The hospital does so much good work," Sister Joyce added. "Is it worth damaging that reputation over one incident?" "It wasn't one incident," Naomi said quietly. "And it wasn't just me." But she could see some minds were made up. Even here, in her church family, the pressure to maintain comfortable silence was strong. Driving home later, streetlights streaking past, Naomi felt the weight of disappointment. Elijah glanced over from behind the wheel. "You okay, sis?" "I thought they'd understand better," she said. "How can they tell me to let it go when they know others will face the same thing?" "Some folks mistake peace for justice," Elijah replied. "They think keeping quiet keeps the peace. But you're right. Silence just ensures there'll be another victim. If I quit now, if I take their money and disappear, nothing changes," Naomi said. "The next nurse, the next janitor, the next resident, they'll all face the same abuse, the same isolation, the same pressure to stay quiet." Her phone buzzed. Asha's name lit up the screen. "Naomi," her lawyer said without preamble. "Tyrell Mays just called. He's ready to talk." Thunder cracked outside Asha's 10th floor office as Tyrell Mays sank into a leather chair, his hands fidgeting in his lap. Rain streaked the windows, creating a gray curtain over the city below. Naomi sat quietly, watching the young orderly struggle to find his words. "Take your time," Asha said, her voice gentle but firm. "Just tell us exactly what you saw and heard that day." Tyrell nodded, swallowing hard. "I was doing my rounds, you know, bringing fresh linens to the on-call rooms. That's when I heard the commotion." Lightning flashed, making him jump. Asha leaned forward slightly, recorder ready. "I heard laughing first," Tyrell continued. "But not good laughing, mean laughing. Then I heard Ms. Brooks, Naomi. She was saying, 'Stop.' Clear as day. She said it multiple times." Naomi's hands tightened in her lap, but she kept her face neutral. Asha watched Tyrell intently. "I looked through the door when it swung open. Dr. Mercer had her by the shoulders." Tyrell demonstrated the position with his hands. He was holding her there while Dr. Kessler had the clippers. "That's when I started recording on my phone." "And what exactly did you hear Dr. Kessler say?" Asha asked. Tyrell's voice steadied as he recalled the specific words. He was laughing and said, "Now maybe she'll look hospital neat," like it was some kind of joke. But his voice, it wasn't joking. It was cruel. Asha's pen moved across her legal pad. "Those were his exact words? You're certain?" "Yes, ma'am. I'll never forget it." The way he said it. Tyrell shook his head. It wasn't right. None of it was right. Naomi felt a surge of vindication. Hospital neat. The phrase exposed their true motivation. It wasn't a prank gone wrong. It was targeted harassment, meant to strip away her identity and dignity. "What happened next?" Asha prompted. Ms. Brooks broke free and ran out. She was shaking. Her hair. Tyrell looked at Naomi apologetically. It was destroyed. Patches missing. Uneven. Dr. Kessler was still laughing. But Dr. Mercer looked nervous when he saw me there with my phone. Thunder rolled again as Asha continued taking notes. And the hospital administration, when did they first contact you about what you witnessed? That same night. Ms. Hale from HR called me in. She kept saying how important it was to maintain perspective and consider the bigger picture. Like she was warning me. While Terrell spoke, Asha's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then sat up straighter. "Excuse me one moment," she said, stepping to her desk. Her eyes scanned rapidly over an email. A small smile touched her lips. "What is it?" Naomi asked. "A gift," Asha replied. "Someone inside HR just forwarded me an email chain from the night of the assault. Monica Hale was already discussing containment strategy and message control before she even finished taking your statement, Naomi." "Before I finished telling her what happened?" Naomi's voice rose slightly. "Exactly. They weren't investigating. They were covering up from the very beginning." Asha turned to Tyrell. "This matches what you experienced, doesn't it? Their immediate focus was on controlling the story, not finding the truth." Tyrell nodded emphatically. "They cared more about protecting those doctors than what they did to Ms. Brooks." Asha began rapidly typing on her laptop. "This changes everything. Tyrell's testimony proves discriminatory intent. The email proves institutional protection of abuse. I'm filing an amended complaint immediately." Outside, the storm was intensifying, but inside the office, the atmosphere had shifted. Naomi felt lighter than she had in weeks. By early evening, her phone was buzzing constantly with news alerts. Local reporters were asking pointed questions about hospital leadership. 2 board members had called for an independent investigation. Even the medical board was making inquiries about Mercer and Kessler's conduct. "Come on," Elijah said when he picked her up. "You need to eat something real. No more lunch from the hospital cafeteria." They ended up at their favorite diner, the same one where they'd spent countless hours after their mother's passing. Loretta joined them, ordering coffee and peach cobbler. "The tide's turning," Loretta said, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. "But remember, powerful people are like wounded animals when they're cornered. Most dangerous right before they fall." "Let them try something," Elijah said. "We've got truth on our side now." "And evidence," Naomi added, thinking of Tyrell's brave testimony and the leaked emails. For the first time since that horrible day in the on-call room, she felt truly hopeful. Later that night, in her apartment, Naomi stood at her bedroom window watching the storm clear. Stars were beginning to peek through breaks in the clouds. She touched her growing hair, remembering Mrs. Peterson's kindness, Tyrell's courage, Loretta's wisdom, and Elijah's unwavering support. The worst wasn't just over. Justice finally felt possible. She climbed into bed, body relaxing into the mattress. For the first time in weeks, sleep came easily, untroubled by nightmares or anxiety. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, hope was enough. Naomi's phone buzzed with a CNN notification before she even got out of bed. Squinting at the screen, she saw 3 missed calls from Asha and multiple messages from national news producers. Her story was breaking beyond local coverage. She called Asha back immediately, still in her pajamas. "Good morning," Asha said, sounding energized. "How quickly can you meet? Things are moving fast." "What's happening?" The hospital's legal team reached out. Settlement numbers that seemed impossible last week are suddenly on the table. Multiple networks want your story. The board chairman is facing pressure from major donors. Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, heart racing. "This is really happening?" "It's happening. Get dressed." "I'll send a car." Another call beeped through. A producer from Good Morning America. Naomi's hands trembled as she ended the call with Asha. After weeks of fighting, justice finally seemed within reach. She was choosing an outfit when Asha called back, her voice tighter now. "Stay home. Something's wrong." By 11:30 a.m., everything collapsed. Tyrell appeared on local news, voice shaking, recanting his testimony. He claimed he had misunderstood what he saw and apologized for adding to workplace tensions. The hospital's PR team blasted his statement to every newsroom in Atlanta. Naomi called Asha. What happened? His brother was arrested last night. Supposedly routine warrant check. The arresting officer's wife sits on the hospital board. They threatened his family? Naomi's voice cracked. We can't prove it. But Tyrell's gone dark. His phone's disconnected. Before Naomi could process this blow, social media erupted with leaked fragments of her personnel file. Old notes about missed chart updates. A patient complaint about delayed medication, omitting that the delay came from pharmacy backup. Minor issues common to any nurse, carefully curated to paint her as problematic. Her phone buzzed with a news alert at 2:15 p.m. Sainties. Catherine had released security footage, heavily edited. The video began after the door closed, missing Mercer forcing her inside. It ended before the clippers appeared. Without context, the grainy images showed 3 people in a room, movement that could be interpreted multiple ways. Cable news talking heads debated the ambiguous footage. Online comments called her a liar. Former supporters backed away, saying the truth seems complicated. Then came Monica Hale's statement, delivered with practiced concern. Ms. Brooks's initial account showed concerning emotional inconsistencies. While we take all allegations seriously, the evidence does not support claims of forcible assault. Naomi's hands shook as she got ready for her evening shift. She had to keep working. She couldn't let them drive her out. But walking through the hospital doors felt like entering enemy territory. Security stopped her at the front desk. ID, please. She showed her badge. Please wait here. Minutes later, Monica Hale appeared with 2 HR assistants. Her face showed rehearsed sympathy as she handed Naomi a thick envelope. Your employment is terminated effective immediately for disruptive conduct affecting team cohesion. Your final pay will be processed according to state law. Naomi stared at the papers, mind blank. I need to get my things. They've been packed for you. A security guard appeared with a cardboard box. Her photos, spare scrubs, coffee mug. 3 years of nursing excellence reduced to objects in a box. Staff members she'd worked beside for years suddenly found reasons to study their phones or hurry past. No one met her eyes. No one spoke up. Even nurses who had privately supported her stayed silent. She walked out carrying the box, past the gift shop where she used to buy candy for difficult patients, past the chapel where she'd prayed during tough shifts, past the coffee cart where she'd shared countless breaks with colleagues who now pretended not to see her. The drive home passed in a blur. Elijah was waiting at her apartment, having heard the news. He took the box from her trembling hands. They destroyed everything, she whispered. The video, Tyrell, my reputation. They just erased it all, like it never happened. They didn't erase anything, Elijah said firmly. They just proved how far they'll go to hide the truth. But Naomi couldn't stop shaking. I did everything right. I documented everything. I told the truth. I followed every rule. And they still... Her voice broke. They still won. Asha arrived an hour later, looking grimmer than Naomi had ever seen her. The case isn't dead, she insisted, but it just got much harder. They've created doubt. Reasonable doubt is all they need. They made me look crazy, Naomi said quietly, like I imagined it all. Hours later, long after Elijah and Asha had gone, Naomi sat alone on her apartment floor. The termination letter lay in front of her, its corporate language mocking everything she'd fought for. Outside her window, Atlanta's lights blurred through tears she was too tired to wipe away. Her phone buzzed with another news alert. Hospital officials question fired nurses' claims. She turned the phone face down without reading further. The silence felt absolute as she stared at the termination letter, wondering if she had any fight left for tomorrow. Naomi stared at her unworn scrubs, still hanging neatly in the closet. For the first time since starting at St. Catherine, she had nowhere to go. The morning light crept across her bedroom floor while she remained in her pajamas, scrolling mindlessly through social media until the words blurred together. Comments under news articles felt like daggers. Attention seeker. Playing the race card. If she was professional, this wouldn't have happened. She closed the browser but couldn't escape the hollow feeling in her chest. Elijah had called twice already, offering breakfast, company, anything. But Naomi let his calls go to voicemail. The thought of putting on a brave face felt impossible. A firm knock at her door startled her from her daze. She considered ignoring it until she heard Loretta's voice. "Naomi Brooks, open this door right now." Naomi shuffled to the entrance, wrapping her robe tighter. When she opened the door, Loretta stood there holding a worn banker's box, its corners soft from age. "You going to let me in, or are we doing this in the hallway?" Loretta asked, adjusting her grip on the box. Naomi stepped aside. "What's all that?" Loretta set the box on Naomi's dining table with a thud. 23 years of keeping my mouth shut. That ends today." She began pulling out folders, manila envelopes, and handwritten notes on hospital letterhead. Some papers had turned yellow with age, their staples rusting at the corners. "I've been making copies," Loretta explained, spreading documents across the table. Every complaint that disappeared. Every witness who got transferred or fired. Every time Mercer and Kessler hurt someone and walked away clean. Naomi picked up a complaint form from 2016. "You kept all this?" Started the day they pushed out Maria Suarez. Brilliant resident. Wanted to be a surgeon. Mercer broke her spirit piece by piece until she quit the program. Loretta's voice hardened. "I told myself I was just being careful, keeping records. Truth is, I was too scared to use them." "Why?" Naomi asked softly. "My husband died young, left me with medical bills and a son who needed rehab 3 times before it stuck. I couldn't risk my pension." Loretta met Naomi's eyes. "But watching them fire you yesterday, I realized silence is just another word for permission." Naomi called Elijah, who arrived within minutes. Together, they began sorting through Loretta's collection. Complaint forms with identical handwriting but different signatures. Security logs showing missing footage on dates that matched incident reports. HR memos discussing perception management instead of investigation. "Look at this," Elijah said, holding up 2 documents. Same incident, different summaries. The version that went to the board left out Kessler's threats completely. Naomi found a pattern in personnel transfers. Every time someone filed against Mercer, they were gone within 3 months. Either they quit or got written up until they left. "Monica Hale's signature is on most of these resolutions," Loretta pointed out. "She's been covering for them for years." By afternoon, Asha arrived with her laptop and legal pad. She moved through the documents methodically, her expression growing darker. "This is systematic," she said. "Not just the assault, the whole infrastructure of hiding it. But something's still missing." She pulled up the security footage on her tablet. The export timestamp on this video. "It's wrong." "Wrong how?" Naomi asked. "Hospital security footage auto-archives every 48 hours. But this clip's metadata shows it was exported last week, after your assault. Someone went in and altered it manually." The realization hit Naomi like a wave. This wasn't just about 2 doctors who attacked her. This was about an entire system designed to protect abusers and silence victims. "They didn't just cover up what happened to me," she said slowly. "They've been doing this for decades." "And they're still doing it," Loretta added. 3 nurses transferred out of surgery last month. Nobody asked why. Naomi stood up, energy coursing through her for the first time since her firing. "This isn't just my fight anymore, is it?" "No," Asha agreed, already typing notes. "This is about every person they've hurt and every rule they've broken to hide it. I need to track down that video's chain of custody. If we can prove tampering—" "I have the original archiving procedures," Loretta said, pulling another folder from her box. "They changed them last year without board approval." As evening settled over Atlanta, Asha gathered her materials and headed out to chase the video trail. Naomi walked Loretta to her car, watching the older nurse move with lighter shoulders, as if setting down a burden she'd carried too long. "Thank you," Naomi said quietly, "for not letting them bury this." Loretta turned back, her face set with determination. "Baby, They've been burying people like us for years. It's time we did some digging of our own. The morning sun hadn't yet burned through Atlanta's haze when Naomi climbed into Asha's car. Elijah sat in the back, scrolling through directions to their destination. They were headed to a small office park on the outskirts of town to meet Felix Danner, the former IT subcontractor who'd managed St. Catherine's security archives. "Remember," Asha said, navigating through early traffic, "let me do the talking. Felix is nervous about legal exposure." Naomi nodded, watching the city slide past her window. After weeks of doors closing in her face, even this small lead felt dangerous to hope for. They found Felix in a cramped office space that smelled of old coffee and electronics. Monitors crowded his desk, their screens filled with scrolling code. He was younger than Naomi expected, maybe early 30s, with anxious energy that showed in his constant finger-tapping. "I should have said something sooner," Felix said, pulling up server logs. "But the hospital's legal team. They're not people you want attention from." "What changed?" Asha asked. "They fired me last month. Blamed me for a data breach that was their own IT director's mistake." His bitter laugh held no humor. "Guess they needed a scapegoat who couldn't fight back." Felix turned one monitor toward them. "Look at these access timestamps. The night of Ms. Brooks's assault, someone logged into the archive system using admin credentials. But instead of the normal security team ID, it was routed through HR's network." "Monica Hale's department," Naomi said quietly. "Exactly. They accessed the raw footage for nearly 3 hours before the official version was exported." Felix opened another window showing authorization logs. "The original recording was much longer. I can prove it because the initial file size is logged here, almost triple what they released." Elijah leaned forward. "So they didn't just cut the video short. They spent hours editing it?" "And tried hiding their tracks," Felix confirmed. "But server backups are automatic. They forgot I had duplicate logs running on a separate system. Standard practice for evidence handling." Asha pulled out her laptop. "We need everything documented. Access records, file sizes, timestamps, authorization chains." "Already compiled." Felix handed her a flash drive, "including the archive path where the original footage should still be stored. The authentication data proves when and how it was altered." While Asha and Felix worked through technical details, Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from Loretta. "Tyrell asking to meet. Says he's ready to tell the truth." Asha saw Naomi's expression. "What is it?" "Tyrell wants to come back," Naomi said. "If we can protect his family?" "Already working on it." Asha typed rapidly on her phone. "I have a contact at Legal Aid who can help secure emergency protection orders. Let me make some calls." They spent the next hour in Felix's office, while Asha coordinated with her contacts. By early afternoon, she had arrangements in place for Tyrell's brother's safety. The protection orders would shield him from the hospital board members' threats. "Tell Tyrell to meet us at my office," Asha told Naomi. "We'll take his full statement under oath this time." Before they left, Felix grabbed Naomi's arm. "Ms. Brooks, what they did to you, it wasn't right. The whole system there is corrupt." "Thank you," Naomi said, "for helping us prove it." The afternoon blurred into evening as they gathered depositions and evidence. Tyrell arrived at Asha's office looking exhausted but determined. His hands shook as he signed his new statement. "I'm sorry," he told Naomi. "They said they'd destroy my brother's life. I was weak." "You came back," Naomi said. "That's what matters." Asha worked late into the night, preparing emergency motions to force the hospital to produce the unedited footage. Every document had to be perfect. They couldn't risk giving St. Catherine's lawyers any procedural openings. "They'll try to destroy evidence once they realize what we found," Asha explained, still typing. "We need court orders in place immediately." Naomi and Elijah stayed with her, ordering takeout when dinner time passed unnoticed. The office windows darkened as night settled over the city. Finally, near 11:30 p.m., Asha filed the last motion electronically. "Now we wait," she said, rubbing her tired eyes. Elijah drove Naomi home, both of them too drained to talk much. She had just changed into pajamas when her phone lit up with Asha's number. "We found the real video," Asha said without preamble. Naomi sank onto her bed, heart pounding, knowing everything was about to change. The clock on Asha's office wall ticked past midnight as they gathered around her desk monitor. Naomi sat between Elijah and Loretta, while Tyrell hovered nervously near the door. The city outside was quiet, but tension filled the room as Asha accessed the recovered server files. "Are you ready?" Asha asked Naomi gently. Naomi straightened her spine. "Play it." The footage began with a clear view of the on-call room hallway. The timestamp matched the afternoon of the assault. They watched as Naomi hurried down the corridor, responding to the false emergency call. "There's no break in the recording here," Asha noted. "Not like the edited version." The unedited video showed Naomi entering the room alone, her movements urgent with professional concern. The angle captured her sudden stop when she saw there was no patient inside. Her body language changed instantly, shoulders tensing, stepping back toward the exit. Mercer appeared in the doorway behind her, blocking her path. The audio was crisp. "Going somewhere, Nurse Brooks." His tone dripped with mockery. "Let me out." Naomi's voice was firm despite her obvious fear. "This is inappropriate." Kessler moved into frame, holding up his phone to record. "Come on, it's just a little initiation. Everyone goes through it." "No." Naomi tried to push past them. "I said no." The footage continued without the convenient cuts of the hospital's version. It showed Mercer grabbing Naomi's shoulders while she struggled. Kessler retrieved the clippers from the grooming kit, laughing as he turned them on. "Time to look hospital neat," Mercer sneered. "More professional." Loretta gripped Naomi's hand as they watched the assault unfold. The recording captured every second. Naomi's repeated demands to stop, her attempts to break free, the doctor's casual cruelty as they sheared off her hair. Elijah's jaw clenched. "These men belong in jail." The unedited video ran nearly 15 minutes longer than the version St. Catherine had released. It showed the full aftermath, Naomi stumbling out in shock, Loretta rushing to help her, and, crucially, Tyrell's partial phone recording of the doctor's continuing laughter. "That's exactly what I saw," Tyrell said quietly. "What I should have testified to from the start." Asha paused the playback. "Tyrell, are you willing to sign a new sworn statement right now? Confirming this matches what you witnessed?" He nodded, hands shaking slightly as Asha prepared the paperwork. While he signed, she began examining the video's technical data. "The authentication codes are intact," she said. "Timestamps, file signatures, access logs, it's all here. They can't claim this was tampered with." "What about Monica's team accessing it?" Naomi asked. "The server logs prove they spent hours editing before releasing their version. That's intentional evidence manipulation." Asha's smile was sharp. The cover-up just became as damaging as the crime. They worked through the night preparing emergency filings. Asha documented the chain of custody, while Loretta helped correlate the footage with her contemporaneous notes from that day. Around 3 a.m., Tyrell completed his new testimony, this time including every detail he'd previously been pressured to omit. Naomi watched them all working to restore the truth, feeling a strange calm settle over her. The first time she'd lived through this assault, it had left her shattered. But seeing it now, with irrefutable proof, she felt something shifting inside her. From shame to righteous anger, from powerlessness to strength. "The hospital's lawyers will try to seal this," Asha warned as she assembled the filing. "We need to submit everything before they realize what we have." Dawn was breaking when they finished. Asha sent runners to file the emergency motions at the courthouse the moment it opened. Within hours, the judge's clerk contacted her to confirm receipt of the new evidence. By mid-morning, the hospital's legal team was in full crisis mode. Their carefully constructed defense, built on edited footage and pressured retractions, was crumbling. The unedited video destroyed their claims of horseplay and misunderstanding. "They're already trying to schedule emergency settlement talks," Asha told Naomi, checking her phone messages. "Their tone has completely changed." Elijah snorted. Now they want to talk. Outside the courthouse, reporters began gathering as word spread that major new evidence had been filed. Naomi watched them from Asha's office window, remembering how alone she'd felt when the story first broke. Now the truth was finally catching up to her abusers. "Look," Loretta said softly, joining her at the window. She pointed to the growing media crowd below. "That's what accountability looks like. They can't hide anymore." Naomi touched her regrown hair, still short, but now a symbol of survival rather than humiliation. "No," she agreed. "They can't." Camera flashes exploded across the courthouse steps as Naomi walked beside Asha through the media gauntlet. Reporters shouted questions, their microphones thrust forward like accusatory fingers. Naomi kept her head high, her expression calm. She'd chosen a fitted burgundy blazer and crisp white blouse, professional armor for this decisive morning. Behind them, St. Catherine's legal team practically sprinted up the steps, their usual courthouse swagger replaced by barely concealed panic. The hospital's lead counsel, Richard Palmer, was already sweating through his expensive suit, despite the cool morning air. "Ms. Whitman," Palmer called out, trying to sound casual. "Perhaps we could discuss—" "In court, counselor," Asha cut him off without breaking stride. "Everything on the record today." The judge's chambers were oak-paneled and austere. Judge Marion Reeves, a veteran of employment law cases, studied the authentication documents with sharp attention, while both legal teams waited in tense silence. Naomi watched the judge's expression darken as she reviewed the server logs, showing exactly when and how the hospital had doctored the evidence. "This is extremely troubling," Judge Reeves said finally, looking up at Palmer. "Your clients deliberately altered and misrepresented critical evidence. There appear to be multiple instances of witness intimidation. And these emails suggesting HR planned containment before investigation—" She shook her head. "I'm considering referring this for criminal investigation." Palmer's face went ash-gray. "Your Honor, we're prepared to discuss immediate resolution." "No private discussions," Asha interrupted. "My client requires full public accountability. We'll proceed in open court." The main courtroom was packed by the time they entered. Naomi spotted Elijah and Loretta in the gallery. Hospital board members filled one row, their usual confidence replaced by grim expressions. Local news crews lined the back wall, cameras ready. Judge Reeves wasted no time. "We'll begin with the unedited security footage." The courtroom fell silent as the video played on multiple screens. Without the hospital's selective editing, the assault was undeniable. Naomi heard several gasps when Mercer grabbed her shoulders. Someone cursed softly at Kessler's laughing commentary about making her hospital neat. Palmer seemed to shrink with each damning frame. When the lights came up, he was openly mopping his forehead. "Your Honor," he started, "St. Catherine is prepared to offer—" "Our terms are non-negotiable," Asha stated, rising. "Full public admission of wrongdoing. Permanent termination of both doctors. Written apology. Independent review of all discrimination complaints. Reform measures with external oversight." She paused. "And, of course, appropriate damages. The hospital board needs time to—" "No." Judge Reeves's tone was steel. "You've had months to do the right thing. Instead, your clients chose orchestrated deception. I'm ordering an immediate settlement conference, today, and I strongly suggest St. Catherine accept Ms. Whitman's terms before I allow this to proceed to trial with punitive damages." The pressure mounted hourly. By early afternoon, major news outlets were running stories about the unedited footage. Hospital donors began calling board members, threatening to withdraw support. The medical board announced emergency proceedings to review Mercer and Kessler's licenses. Naomi watched from Asha's office as the dominoes fell. Security cameras captured Mercer being escorted from hospital property, his arrogance finally shattered. Kessler followed an hour later, nearly running to his car as reporters shouted questions. Monica Hale's resignation hit the news feeds next, after her emails about containment strategy leaked. The hospital CEO was forced to hold a humiliating press conference. Naomi observed his practiced charm crumble as he admitted the assault occurred exactly as she'd reported. He confirmed both doctors were terminated. He apologized for the institution's failure to protect staff. "They're caving on everything," Asha reported, checking updates between settlement sessions. "The board is terrified of a trial. They're even agreeing to name the reform initiative after your mother." Throughout the day, Naomi maintained her composure. She let Asha handle the legal combat while she sat straight-backed and dignified, forcing everyone who had doubted her to watch justice unfold. The same people who had mocked her sensitivity now couldn't meet her eyes. Palmer looked physically ill by late afternoon as he reviewed the final settlement terms. The hospital would pay $7 million, more than Asha's original demand. The package included compensatory damages, punitive damages, and funded workplace reforms. Every attempt to hide the truth had only made the consequences more severe. The sun was setting when Asha finally brought the signed agreement to her office. Naomi read each page carefully, her hand steady as she added her signature. The document was heavy with legal language, but its message was clear. Truth had prevailed. Her dignity had been restored, and no one who tried to bury her had emerged unscathed. "It's done," Asha said quietly, sliding the papers into her briefcase. She handed Naomi a copy of the signed agreement, physical proof that justice was possible, even against powerful institutions. Naomi held the document, feeling its weight. $7 million would fund real change, but the money mattered less than the public accountability. Everyone would know exactly what had happened in that on-call room. Everyone would see how the hospital had tried to hide it, and everyone would witness the consequences. Sunlight streamed through Elijah's kitchen windows, casting warm patterns across Naomi's coffee cup. For the first time in months, her shoulders relaxed as she breathed in the morning quiet. The weight of fear, that constant companion since the assault, had finally lifted. "You haven't smiled like that in a while," Elijah said, sliding a plate of eggs in front of her. He'd insisted she stay at his place after yesterday's settlement, wanting to celebrate as a family. "It feels strange," Naomi admitted. "Like I'm waiting for another attack that isn't coming." "Because it's not," he said firmly. "They can't hurt you anymore." Her phone buzzed with news alerts. The medical board had scheduled emergency hearings for both Mercer and Kessler. Video showed Mercer ducking into his lawyer's office, his usual swagger replaced by hunched shoulders and darting eyes. Kessler had reportedly left town entirely. "Look at this," Elijah said, turning up his tablet's volume. The local morning news was showing St. Catherine's CEO announcing an external review of all discrimination complaints from the past decade. Behind him, board members shifted uncomfortably as reporters shouted questions about other cases of buried misconduct. 3 more nurses have already filed new claims, Naomi said, scanning her emails. Asha's office is helping them build their cases. She opened her banking app, still adjusting to the settlement amount displayed on the screen. The money felt almost secondary to the public accountability, but she knew exactly how to use it. Later that morning, Naomi met with the dean of her old nursing school. The woman's eyes widened as Naomi outlined her plan for the Evelyn Brooks Nursing Scholarship. "Your mother would be so proud," the dean said, reaching for grant paperwork. "This will help dozens of students who couldn't otherwise afford training. Make sure the application specifically mentions support for minority candidates," Naomi instructed. Mom always said talent shouldn't be blocked by barriers. From there, she drove to Elijah's barber shop. The space next door had been vacant for months, perfect for expansion. Her brother's hands shook slightly as she handed him the business plan she'd drafted. "A full training academy?" he asked, scanning the documents. "The community needs more black-owned businesses teaching real skills," Naomi said. "You've already mentored so many kids informally. Now you can do it right." Over the next several weeks, reforms begin. The scholarship is funded, and Naomi accepts a leadership role with a nursing equity nonprofit. The morning of the Reform Center unveiling, Naomi stood before her mirror, running her fingers through her growing hair. The natural coils were coming in strong, defiant, beautiful. She thought of her mother's hands styling her hair as a child, teaching her that appearance was about dignity, not submission. St. Catherine's main auditorium was packed. Hospital staff filled most seats, with nursing students along the back wall. Naomi spotted Loretta near the front, proudly wearing her retirement whites, her head held high. Asha sat beside her, both women beaming as Naomi approached the podium. The new plaque behind her read, "The Brooks Center for Healthcare Equity and Reform." Below that, "Founded 2024, through the courage of those who refused to be silenced." Naomi adjusted the microphone, taking in the faces before her, especially the young nurses, still early in their careers, still learning what battles lay ahead. "A few months ago, I stood in this hospital believing my career was over," she began. "Two doctors and an enabling administration thought they could humiliate me into silence. They assumed their power gave them the right to break people they saw as beneath them." She paused, letting the words settle. "But dignity isn't granted by institutions. It lives in us, in our refusal to accept abuse as normal, in our courage to name wrong as wrong, in our determination to protect those who come after us." Heads nodded throughout the audience. Several of the nursing students were wiping tears. "This center will ensure that no healthcare worker faces what I faced alone. We'll provide legal support, policy advocacy, and a strong voice for change. But most importantly, we'll teach what I learned. No one who tries to humiliate you gets to decide your future." Naomi's voice grew stronger. "They thought they could break me with clippers and cruelty. Instead, they broke their own power. They thought they could bury the truth with money and influence. Instead, they buried their own careers. They thought I would disappear in shame. Instead, I stand here ensuring they will be remembered only as a cautionary tale about the cost of unchecked arrogance." She looked directly at the nursing students. "Your skills matter. Your humanity matters. Your dignity matters. And if anyone tries to convince you otherwise, remember this. Justice may take time, but it comes for those who dare to demand it. Stand tall. Document everything. Find your allies. Trust your worth. The people who try to diminish you fear your strength. And they should." The applause started with Loretta and built until it filled the room. Naomi saw tears on some familiar faces. Staff members who had watched silently during her ordeal now cheering her victory. But she focused on the young nurses in the back, their eyes shining with inspiration and determination. They would face their own battles, but they would face them knowing that victory was possible. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked two special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.